and welcome to Gathering Momentum for Your Life. I'm Christine Casten, and this is another week of this devotional. This is set to or put together with the idea that you are continuing to build in your journey with God. In other words, you're continuing to gather momentum and grow. Now, the opposite of growth is what? Stagnation or status quo. So I think today let's talk about the idea of status quo or grow. And when we think about that, of course, that verse that always comes to my mind is that verse in Revelation 3:16, where Jesus says that because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I will spew you out of my mouth. And spew is like, it is not I'm just gonna it is like a violent release. And I think that the thing that Jesus is talking about is that the human tendency is to find something that is steady, right? We want things to be status quo. We like the steady. We like the predictable. We like the idea that we don't have to adjust and we don't have to develop or grow, because that's work, right? That there's work involved in that. And I can tell you that one of the things that we find in the Warrior Commission is that people who come in with a passion to grow, in other words, they have a hunger to grow and develop, will persevere. In other words, they will step into the training. They will embrace all that God has for it. People who are coming in who are maybe not as dedicated, who want their hands held in the idea that they want to just regurgitate information, or people who are in a place where they really aren't willing to face what God wants to bring to the surface. In other words, internally, externally, mindsets that have hindered them, things that have that they maybe have held on to that they need to let go of. All of those decisions and those choices that we've made either inadvertently or purposefully in our life, for protection and self-protection, or because of woundings or whatever. All of those things contribute to a desire to stay in one place, a desire to stay in status quo. But if we're really going to grow in God, if we're really going to develop and we're really going to move into a place where our passion is the fans are flamed, and if we're really wanting to move into a place where adversity doesn't stop us, it contributes to our process of growth, that we recognize that the adversity, as difficult as it may be on the surface, there's something on the other side of it in the perseverance that allows us to look at something from a completely different angle, from a completely different understanding, to look for how God's moving in the midst of the things that are happening. And in those places, we find the hope, and we find the desire to press in, and we find the perseverance and the grit and the determination that we have in the process of our growth. Now, if you want to grow, it is not an easy road. And the reason I say that, I'm just going to be frank with you because I don't want to lie to you. Growth is not easy. Growth is something that requires a dedication. It requires a commitment. It requires a choice to stay on course in the process of the development. And for people who don't have that desire, when you're faced with the ideas of growth that really challenge your thinking and really challenge what your status quo has been, you're not going to embrace what's possible on the other side of that. The thing that I've found, part of the reason we have the name the Warrior Commission, the commission part has to do with identity and intimacy, and it has to do with the idea that God has given us something on this earth. We're commissioned into the sonship. We're commissioned into the purpose and destiny that God created us to carry and to live out. That's the commission part. But there's a warrior part too. And that warrior part has to do not with the idea of storming the gates just for the sake of storming the gates. The warrior part has to do with the mindset that a warrior has to carry to train, to develop, to grow, to persevere, to have the grit and determination, the fortitude to choose what God has put in front of us. I can tell you that the whole idea of loving people, loving others as I love myself, loving myself as God has loved me, seeing myself through his eyes, seeing others through his eyes is not it's not an an innate easy thing to do. When someone comes up and they say something really mean, or they do something that sabotages you, or things that you've been putting your hand to, or all this energy you've been pouring into stuff, to choose to love them anyway is not an easy choice, right? Because your natural tendency is to want retribution, right? I want justice for that. And yet there's something in the process of releasing that justice into God's hands, which he says he's the one who carries that out, right? And in the process of that, choosing to say, okay, God, let me see them through your eyes. Now, that doesn't excuse poor behavior. That doesn't excuse even what they did or the choices they made or how they hurt others. It's not an excuse for that. What it is it's a choice to see them through the eyes that God has on them, to see what is possible in them, right? To see their best selves. And then you partner with God in praying toward that. So what you're actually doing is you're partnering with God through prayer to call out the core of who that person was created to be by the Lord. And in that process, you're partnering with God's best for their lives. Are they living their best life? Probably not. Not if they're doing all of that. Are you living your best life? Probably not yet, because God has more in store for us. And so as we learn to partner with God for the best for others, for those best selves to be seen, to call those aspects of who we are that God created, those sons and daughters, the sonship that we carry as children of God. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a throat thing going on. But as we partner with God through prayer for someone's best self, what we do is we move ourselves out of a place of wanting to be judge and jury. And we put ourselves in a place of submission to God's heart. And in that place, there's a powerful deposit. There's a powerful impartation in our own growth, because we move into a place of humility, knowing, hey, I make mistakes too. And I want to give grace to others because I want grace given to me, but that's not why you do it. You do it because you see the power of grace. And as you grow from a babe into an adult, as you grow into a more mature believer, you start to have more opportunities to love well. Now, again, I'm not excusing poor behavior. There are repercussions to our behaviors, and there are things that, sometimes we have to put up healthy boundaries. Sometimes we need to reposition people. Sometimes we need to stop the process of where those people are. And unfortunately, those are things that sometimes are necessary. At the same time, it's the heart that Jesus is after. So even in the midst of those things needing to happen, he's more concerned about the growth of your heart in that process and how well you love. Because he loves us no matter what we do. He may not like what we do, and he may not like the way we act, but he loves us. And so there's something about the love of God that has the ability to take us into a new place. It has the ability to heal us. It has the ability to help us to have different perspective. It has the ability to, as we seek his heart and his love, to actually see things differently in the process of our own development. It helps us have more compassion for others, but it doesn't make us weak. And I really do want to address this, because I've found that when we operate in a choice to love others, that there are times that as you're describing that to others, people are like, "Oh, that's just being weak. You're just weak." I would submit to you that it takes an incredibly strong person to choose to love and to choose to have healthy boundaries and to choose um, to have a perspective that sees the best in someone, even when their best is not being displayed. And to partner with God for that, it takes a strong person because everything in us is trying to fight, scream, yell for those people to be destroyed, those people to have justice, right? For things to be taken from them. But in God's mercy, sometimes He has a different approach that's actually going to be better for them and their growth and their development, as well as your own growth and development. That can happen. I hope this isn't too confusing. But what I've found is there's a deeper kind of living that we can step into as believers. There's something that God has on hand for us that when we actually make those choices to love, when we make those choices to persevere in the fight, when we make the choices to have that warrior mindset, it takes a warrior mindset to love greatly. We move into a place of a deeper love that actually brings forward more things in people than bad attitudes or arrogance would in any type of interaction with them. I don't have a problem with people seeing me as weak because I love greatly. I'm okay with that. And I've found that it's through the grace and the love that I've shared with people when they talk about, when they give testimonies back and feedback to me over the years of what impacted them the most. I can tell you it wasn't the great things I was able to, create. It wasn't the incredible moment that I had this, word of wisdom. What it was that I saw them and I loved them well. And in the process of loving them and calling out their best self, as God showed me their, things in their life and in their heart that were so critical to how amazing they are, that's what changed them. That's what created the catalyst for them to believe something different and for them to have the courage to be able to step into those harder things that are about change and development and growth. And so I submit this to you because I think we've kind of gotten skewed on how it is that we encourage people in their growth or admonish them or whatever. And there are true needs for us to challenge each other in good ways with our growth and our development. But when we do it without love, we've actually missed the whole point. So as we grow and choose not to be in status quo, what we're actually doing is we're deepening in a capability of receiving God's love, stretching and expanding so we can receive more and so we can give more and give more to others. I think that if we were to actually understand this concept, and I'm still just right here, but I think if we were to truly understand this concept and learn what it is to live it out, I think we would see a huge difference in what our lives look like and what what the world looks like, and specifically people's view of what it is to be a Christian. And so, anyway, I hope that this encourages you. I got a little bit on a soapbox today, but I hope that you are able to take some of these concepts because I think that the passion that we carry to love greatly is a really key component to our growth and our development. And I think that as we choose to embrace that, there's something that happens that keeps us out of that status quo, lukewarm type of lifestyle and moves us into a place of passion, of development, of encouraging others and being able to really see them rise up and their best to come out of them. So I hope that this helps you. I hope this helps you as you consider this and as you're thinking about what is it to gather this momentum in your life and this opportunity to be a catalyst, not just in your own life but in others, and what God's doing in the idea of love and the power that love carries. And as you do, I think that your life will actually drastically change. And I think that there will be a place for you to grow by leaps and bounds. I've seen exponential growth as people get an understanding of this idea. So, with all that being said, if you would like to be a part of a community that is pursuing that, a community that is helping you develop that warrior mindset of what it is to love greatly, in the process of learning who you are, creating identity statements, learning what it is to have impactful prayers in your relationship with God, hearing God, what do you do with what you hear? All those kinds of things. I would love for you to check out the Warrior Commission. It's thewarriorcommission.com. And we have a lot of information there, but you're also welcome to set up an inquiry call where we will talk to you more about what it is that this community is about and how we go about the development process of your life and of your growth as a maturing warrior in Christ. I'll talk to you guys later, and I hope you have a great day.